Hello and welcome to Think Fast, how free ad-supported streaming television can boost your marketing strategy. My name is Mickey Smith. I am the Director of Marketing for Cox Media, Oklahoma, Arkansas. I hope you're enjoying your complimentary beverage this morning. All who registered before today should have received a gift certificate in your inbox. If you cannot find it, check your spam folder. It was sent by our incredible Senior Marketing and Communications Specialist, Frances Mooney with Cox Media. So search for her name to find your gift. By attending today, you are automatically entered to win some incredible door prizes as well. We have a 50-inch Fire TV and a PlayStation 5 up for grabs. At the end of our panel discussion, we will draw 2 names. The only requirement is to be present to win. I have a brief bit of housekeeping before we introduce our moderator and our incredible panel of experts. We have time set aside to answer any questions you may have. While there is no chat feature, you will notice a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to drop your questions in the box as we go. Only you and the panelist will be able to see your questions. Again, we've set aside time, so make sure to drop them in and we will make sure to get to your questions through this morning's discussion. All right, let's get to the reason why we are all here today. At Cox Media, we look to be our clients' trusted partner. As such, we provide educational opportunities to our clients and community throughout the year, whether through our Ask the Expert webinar series or our monthly newsletter, The Spark, or research and analysis our teams provide. Our mission is to deliver relevant insights into products, tactics, and strategies to help your business grow. Today, our panel will speak about FAST, or free ad-supported streaming television. Our moderator, Vanessa Sanders, is here to introduce our panel and guide the discussion today. She is Cox Media's digital and streaming television expert who has worked in the digital space for more than 25 years. Her depth and breadth of knowledge in this area made her the perfect person to lead our discussion. Welcome, Vanessa. We look forward to hearing what you and the panel have to say.
Thank you, Mickey. It is my pleasure to introduce the panelists today. As ad-supported streaming revenue continues to grow, now becoming almost equal with traditional subscription TV viewership, also known as cable and satellite, and surpassing traditional broadcast viewing per Nielsen, we know you, the viewers, have questions. Today, we plan to answer many of them, so let's meet our experts. So you know Luke. You may not know Luke. Luke is with MadHive, and his primary responsibility is helping publishers, including FASTs, monetize their content through advertising. In our case, being viable in our software. Prior to MadHive, he spent time at LoopMe, Dailymotion, and Yahoo, early leaders in video. We would like to welcome. Oh, yes.
Very excited to be on this panel.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're glad to have you here. We would also like to welcome Ria Madrid, Head of Publisher Development and Strategic Partnerships at Whirl. Whirl solves several problems in our business, but one in particular is relevant to this panel. They help content creators launch and grow FAST channels. Prior to Whirl, Ria spent 4 years as a vice president at Zumo, one of the largest FAST platforms in the world. Welcome, Ria.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
And join me in welcoming Ben Vandergrift, VP of Measurement Solutions at the Video Advertising Bureau. VAB is an insights-driven research and marketing company dedicated to helping brand leaders make fully informed media decisions that maximize returns, solve business challenges, and drive overall growth around TV and video. Prior to the VAB, Ben worked for TV Squared, a leader in television attribution. Welcome, Ben.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
And last but never least, it is my pleasure to introduce Alan Wolk. He is the co-founder and lead analyst for TV Rev. If you know anything about television, you probably know Alan Wolk. That's how Adweek describes best-selling author and co-founder of the leading media analyst firm TV Rev. By focusing on the intersection of connected TV and advertising, Wolk, who coined the acronym FAST, free ad-supported streaming TV, and his TV Rev colleagues have helped make the firm one of the media industry's go-to resources for both analysis and consulting. So let's get started by asking this fabulous group a first question. Okay, panelists, what is the difference between OTT, AVOD, SVOD, and FAST? I think since he coined the term, I'm going to toss this first one to Alan.
Okay, well, that's an excellent question because it's probably the most confusing thing that's happening in the industry now. When we talk to people, so that's the one thing we hear all the time is, gosh, I was talking to these people, we were all using the same word to define two different things. So let's start with what, this is from one of our more recent reports. We actually did sort of a whole thing on the nomenclature. So OTT means over the top, and that's sort of fading out. It basically refers to any delivery of TV over internet, whether it's on a television set, a mobile device, laptop, whatnot. That's sort of the all-encompassing term. CTV sort of took over from OTT which means connected TV, because it turns out that unlike much of the rest of the world, something like 80 to 90% of streaming TV in the US is watched on an actual TV set rather than on a mobile device, which is much more popular overseas. So CTV sort of became the term. SVOD is sort of the easy one. It means subscription video on demand, and it generally refers to the big services like Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus that charge a subscription fee. AVOD is the one that confuses everybody, because AVOD means ad-supported video on demand, and it can mean subscription or it can mean free. And the way we came up with FAST was actually trying to distinguish between Hulu, which was subscription and ad-supported, and Pluto and Xumo, which were free and ad-supported. So that sort of became the thing. And FAST is, of course, free ad-supported streaming TV. Now, the way we sort of define the universe now is there's free and not free, right? That's pretty easy way to do it. So FAST and SVOD. Within those, they each have linear channels and linear streams, and they also have on-demand. And we're starting to see the subscription services now, having seen how popular the channel thing was on FAST, are adopting it. So Paramount Plus, Peacock, and Discovery Plus are subscription, but they all now have linear channels. And the assumption is that everybody's going to have linear channels. All of the Netflix, et cetera, will have linear channels for their library content soon anyway. If you're running advertising, it's a great way to keep people on the platform for longer. So anyway, that was
fantastic.
Hopefully.
Thank you, Alan. No, that's great. And I want to, do any of our other panelists want to add to that?
Yeah, I think just FAST is a really exciting space. It's still an emerging space. It's still in an infancy. So I'm super glad Alan was able to coin that acronym. I think was an important thing for our industry to be able to, describe something in a fast, easy, concise way. There's a lot of exciting stuff. I'm super excited to be a part of this panel, but I think it's important for us to be talking and educating about ourselves about this, because it's still growing, still in its infancy. There's a long way to go. But I think glad that we're talking about it.
Agreed. Me too. And glad to have you all here today to share your expertise with people that want to know. They signed up to be here. If no one else has anything to add to that one, Luke, I saw maybe the thought that maybe you had something.
No, I think it's always good to think about all these acronyms, but it's what I personally find interesting is that at the end of the day, the users don't necessarily think about what what sort of acronym they are currently watching, right? I mean, they consume content, they move from one series to another one, they flick from one channel to another one without necessarily thinking about, am I on AVOD, am I on SVOD, am I on FAST or whatnot? So I think it's always important to put all that in the context of the end users and try to think also in the way they look at this landscape.
Excellent. Well, and Ria, I would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, we like to have acronyms in our industry. There's thousands of them floating around. Just to support what Alan said, I think really for a marketer, it's important to understand the difference between the two because there are oftentimes very different consumers. And to Luke's point, I think that really adjusting your strategy to that type of viewer is important. So having a good sense of what type of viewer is looking at a subscription-based service versus channel surfing on a fast channel that's available free on their CTV. They are oftentimes very different audiences. So it's good that we do have those categories to make that distinction.
Makes a lot of sense. It affects targeting, I would think. So how have streaming and fast grown? I'm going to say, Luke, maybe you have some thoughts around this.
Yeah, I can take this one. Yes. So it's I think it's it's fair to say that we've seen a lot of changes in the media landscape in the last 20 years. We see more content, we see more streaming platforms, we see more devices, better infrastructure networks, better solutions to monetize, specifically with programmatic, for example. And so when it comes to FAST specifically, it's all started in 2014. I think Pluto TV was the first one to aggregate linear TV feeds and make that available through the internet. But and today in 2023, it feels like it's easy, right, to stream content, and it's everybody's streaming and broadcasting content. But back in those days, it was pretty challenging. Broadcasting live was technically very complicated. It was buffering. You had to install an app on your computer. It was hard to monetize. And I think it's as devices developed, as the bandwidth improved, as more linear channels joined the party, we started seeing FAST as an emerging, almost like mainstream format. And after Pluto, we started seeing some other platforms like Zumo, like Peacock, the Roku channel, Freevee, and the Samsung TV Plus, and I'm sure there are a lot of other names. But it's now a pretty large phenomenon, if you like. When looking at stats from eMarketer, I think it's about 100 million households in the US watching FAST channels per month via connected TV, via dongle sticks, console boxes. It's basically everywhere. And I think it's I view it as a marketplace where it's creating value for everyone. If you're a user, it's a great proposition because it's free. It gives you access to a lot of content, and it's almost like a traditional TV experience. You land on this sort of EPG format. It's a TV guide. You flick through channels, you tune in, and that's it. You're watching live content. So it's more choice, more screens. It's free. From a content owner, so for the TV station standpoint, it's great because it means more audience, it's more distribution, more syndication. So, and obviously for this webinar, I think we've got a lot of folks from the sales organization. From an advertising standpoint, it's awesome because it's a large screen, it's a lean back experience. You get the consumer's full attention. It's it's TV premium content, and even more importantly, it's measurable, meaning that you can target, you can get attribution. So it's almost like the best of the two worlds between digital advertising and this premium TV screen. So that's why it's becoming so mainstream right now.
Luke, you are speaking to my heart with the measurability of that for sure, and the many placements. Ben, would you like to add a comment to that?
Sure. I think just to add on to what Luke was saying there is that, FAST is, for lack of a better term, the fastest growing streaming platform. I think year over year, it's somewhere around 40 to 42% year over year growth now with, 4 out of 10 adult streamers watching FAST. But I think it's still important to remember that audiences are watching TV, consuming that great content across all of the different platforms, but specifically on linear for 5 hours a day. 60% of the time that they're spending watching content is on linear. So that means FAST is going to be a great way to reach those audiences and get incremental reach against who you're already reaching on linear, right? So the audiences on FAST tend to, they skew a little bit younger. Their income is very comparable to the SVOD, right? That subscription VOD audience. So you're going to be reaching those people that you may not be able to reach on linear who are just streaming only, those cord cutters. And their level of education is going to be comparable to those SVOD audiences as well, with a third of FAST viewers having a bachelor's degree or higher. So I think there's, I'll leave it at that.
It's very good stuff. So they're high quality audiences watching a lot of content. Alan, are we missing any of the key points here? Oh, one moment I think we need to unmute you.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, just one thing that I would add is that the OEMs, the three of them in particular, Samsung, LG, and Vizio, have all launched their own FAST services over the last couple of years. And that's just expanded the general universe of streaming, both from a factor of people don't need to get a dongle anymore to watch, whether it's Netflix or Disney Channel, or whether it's a FAST, it's right there on their TV. It's expanded that universe. It's given, they all have their own ACR data, so they have incredible measurement capabilities on all of that. And it also serves as the home screen on the device. So it's a great way for other media companies to promote their own programming.
That is fantastic. And Ria, do you agree? I think you might.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, given my time at Zumo and now at Whirl, I think it's been pretty amazing to see how quickly the ecosystem has changed over the past 5 years, and just the accessibility to fast content from a consumer standpoint, but also for a content company, how turnkey it is for them to distribute and really scale, their total reach across various devices. Like Alan mentioned, every major device and platform now has oftentimes this opportunity to distribute their channels on each device. So really the speed to market is pretty amazing. And I think for me, that's been the most notable change over the years.
Absolutely. And everyone has great quality now, and not just as you mentioned, Luke, in the quality of the stream, as well as the quality of the content. So there's just a lot of places to place things. I think, let's think about this then. What are the benefits of running on a FAST channel if you are an advertiser? Ben, can you kick us off with that one?
Sure. I think plain and simple, it's just more opportunity to reach the audience that matter most to you. But I think some of the other panelists touched on this earlier. I think it was Luke. It was that you can also reach them in a targeted way. And you can measure them, right, against those exact audiences that you're targeting via that broadband connection, right? That's how you're going to be able to target them, right? That enhanced technology that's made available to the consumer, right? So offering that attractive consumer that has the similar behaviors and attributes to that subscription VOD audience that I touched on before. It's a great complement to linear. So it's a great complement to anything else that you may be doing in the video landscape as a marketer. So you're getting those fast viewers along with the ad-supported VOD viewers who are more likely to be cord cutters, but also drawn to that cable-like experience. So it's a premium ad environment with premium produced content, which creates greater awareness and attention, right, leading to greater impact across the sales funnel from awareness to consideration to sale. So that full cross-platform video experience is truly a great asset to use as a marketer.
Fantastic. And Ria, I know that Whirl has some experience in this realm as well. So I want to hear your thoughts around the benefits of using FAST.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a marketer, this really gives a tremendous opportunity for scale audience reach. With fast channels, there's really no barrier to entry. There's oftentimes no login required. There's no paywall. It really is available for the masses to consume. So it's a very easy way for marketers to reach a scale audience. And further, like Ben's touched on a few times, just the the very specific measurement and targeting capabilities that, is possible through these different types of distribution points is really interesting. I think, from a technical standpoint, fast channels are oftentimes deployed using server-side ad insertion, which really gives a lot of benefits for user experience, universal control over, ad volume, creative bitrate to have a very smooth viewing experience. I mean, I could geek out for, hours on the benefits of server-side ad insertion, but really, I think truly the controls that are in place on the creative side is a lot stronger. And again, being able to measure the success rates and the performance of those campaigns, I think is very, it's a lot easier to access through fast channels versus some of the traditional methods.
Fantastic. So I wanted to remind our viewers that they have the ability to submit questions through the Q&A. And I believe there's one in here in case you haven't submitted yours. Are these fast channel ads non-skippable as they are in the OTT realm? Is it the same?
Yes.
Okay,
Fine,
Alan, thank you.
Yeah, they are. They are.
And while we have you, what are your thoughts around the benefits of FAST since we have your mic open?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two huge benefits. One, which we've also touched on is, especially for local, if you're a local advertiser, you can use FAST to reach all these people because you can target people by geolocation, among other things, but you can use that to reach all the people, even if it's a national service, to reach people that you're not reaching on linear, which is a huge thing. The other piece, and this works whether you're working on a linear fast or on the on-demand, which again, not to be the dead horse on this, but the on-demand part of the fast channels is also very big, and different people watch them for different reasons, and a lot of people watch both. But regardless, there's a lot of opportunity for contextual-based advertising. In other words, if you are a lawn and garden company, you can run it against sort of gardening shows, home makeover shows, anything like that, where the context is really there. And that allows you to target people who are interested in the same thing as you're selling. And it just makes for a much better experience. It's much easier to do the targeting that way than to sort of, they're on linear.
Okay, well, I love that. And I feel like what we've kind of boiled it down to is great quality, tons of content, great targeting and attribution. Are there popular fast channels? Ben, I think I'm going to ask you that one. What are the most popular channels?
I would say as a marketer, I think it's more important to instead ask not what the most popular fast channel is, but instead first ask who is my audience, and then where on fast or where on linear, where on VOD, wherever they are, am I most likely to meet them? So I think it's important to first identify your audience and then follow them on the screens, channels, and programs that they're watching, right? Taking an audience-based buying approach to your multi-screen campaign is going to be an intelligent way to meet those audiences that matter most to you and your businesses. So while we're seeing popularity of fast providers like Tubi, Xumo, and Pluto, I would, again, still take an audience-based approach, right? Who is my audiences? Which services, which screens have the best options to reach them?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in. Oh, sorry. I'm going to jump in because this is a really important point. We hear this from ad buyers all the time. There is no continuity across these sort of linear fast channels from service to service. They really like to curate their own stuff. Now, occasionally you'll have a big company like an A&E or an AMC can sort of put their channels across, or some of the new services like Cheddar. But by and large, they really like to curate their own stuff. So it's not like linear, where if you want to reach science fiction fans, you just buy the Sci-Fi Network. The science fiction based service on Xumo is going to be different than the one on Pluto, than on Samsung TV Plus. So, in terms of categories, movies is the big category. Movies and news are two huge categories. But, people can't go into this. If you're going in thinking, oh, I'll just buy this channel across all of them, that's not going to happen. But you can target your different audiences. You can target context.
You can target by context, you can target the audience, but the content is still going to have its own unique variances.
Yes.
Luke, do you have anything to add to that thought?
Yeah, I think it's what is important to remember is that it's a major usage shift around us. So it's most popular fast network. It's hard to tell, but what is really interesting in the overall evolution is that it's and Alan made this great point, is that it's becoming ubiquitous, in a sense that now you switch on your you buy a new TV. That's it. Everything is available within 2 clicks on your remote control. You can connect all this stuff so easily, as opposed to what it was like 10 years ago. That's it. It's always available now. So it's a real shift, and it's going to be here for a very, very, very long time. That's what people need to remember. It's a new paradigm.
That is very true. We do have a question in the Q&A here. Because fast channels are somewhat of a curated channel, are they limited by provider? For example, can a Kevin Hart fast channel only be available on Whirl and not theirs? So like, I guess it kind of goes back to the content question that we were talking about a moment ago. Who would, let's see, Rhea, maybe since we haven't heard from you in a moment and we mentioned Whirl, let's take it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to address that question specifically, I wouldn't say that a specific channel is limited to one platform versus another. I think what a lot of streaming services are able to do today is utilize their first party viewership data and really curate more personal experiences for their viewers. So a Kevin Hart channel on, say, Samsung might be a very different experience for, say, someone watching it on Vizio, but that's more so because of some of the personalization data available on the platform and what that streaming service actually does with it, right? You can create very personalized experiences per viewer. I think out the door, it's safe to say maybe a lot of these channels are canned, so to speak, where it has kind of a baseline programming schedule, but then oftentimes it is fine-tuned based on the streaming service or the person. So I would say that would be, utilizing data for those personalized services are really the smart way for content companies to approach their audiences. But I can say, coming from Whirl, there's plenty of channels that don't necessarily do that quite yet. But I think that is really the future. And that really is the smart way to keep engagement up.
Excellent. So you would say there is premium content on a FAST channel, even just because it's free doesn't necessarily mean, would that be true? It doesn't mean it's not high quality.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone measures premium in different ways. But, from my vantage point, premium means, what are the viewers watching? What are the total hours viewed per month? What are the, minutes per session an individual is watching a channel or staying on the platform? I think as long as you are reaching those certain benchmarks and it's remaining consistent and better yet growing, that's a measure of premium content. I think for certain services, some might say, do you have live episodes? Do you have day after episodes for certain primetime specials? That's a different category, in my opinion. That's more subscription-based services. For FAST, I really think premium is a measure of engagement.
Excellent. I think that is a great way to describe it. So I do see one other question in the chat here. How would you go about determining an appropriate budget or percentage of budget to allocate to FAST or a combination of these platforms? Do you view these as supplemental to linear or a replacement for linear? And I'm just judging on the reactions here. I'm going to say, let's say, Alan, I feel like you have something to say about this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it really depends on what, who your audience. It depends. It depends on who your audience is and how much you're able to reach them on linear. So if your audience is, senior citizens, then you're probably going to be able to reach a lot of them on linear, and FAST will be supplementary. On the other hand, and again, I'm stereotyping, but if your audience is young, men 18 to 25, then you might want to put more of your budget into FAST than onto linear primetime, because that's where you'll reach them. So it really depends. I mean, Samsung has something they call the rule of 40, where they recommend that you put 40% of your budget into streaming, but that's, that's again, a very broad number.
That makes perfect sense. And I think we have to think a lot about we can reach all demos with this. At least that's from what I understand.
Yeah.
So what are some frequency best practices when it comes to FAST? And Luke, can you help us think about that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So clearly, I mean, frequency capping, it's an important parameter in the marketing strategy, right? I mean, that's what's helping the advertiser ensure that their ads is not overexposing their targeting audience. I think it's all about finding the right balance between not enough exposure, in which case your marketing story is not just sticking, and then too much exposure on the other side, where in that case you're creating waste, and in worst case scenario you're upsetting, you're irritating your users. So I think when it comes to it's back to Alan's comment earlier, when it comes to best practice or some ideas, I think there are key questions you need to ask the advertiser or the agency. It's first, clearly understanding the objective, the campaign goals. So depending on whether you're thinking, building brand or driving conversions, your frequency capping will be different. Then it's about knowing your audience. Back to Alan's comments, depending on the age, demographics, the location, the browsing history, you'll probably have a different sort of a level of frequency capping. It will probably vary depending. So here we're mainly talking about video, but it's if you're in a world of display, the frequency capping is probably less relevant. It's fine to push your display ads across a myriad of websites. At high scale, it's okay. With video, we all know that it can be irritating to see the same video with the same story, with the same sort of music and so on again and again and again. So for video, I'd say it's more important to be cautious about it. And then it's all about analyzing, testing, optimizing, and learning from what you've been running. So typically at MadHive, we encourage clients to set different frequency capping, almost like on a campaign by campaign basis, or even line item by line item basis, and then drive some learnings. What is important to remember is that there's no magic number, right? I mean, it's not one frequency capping number that that will rule everything. Usually, a rule of thumb is typically between 5 to 8 per day, which is a good place to start. Remember, it's not because you're setting 8 per day. It doesn't mean that all the users will consistently be exposed to the ad 8 times per day across all users every single day for the entire duration of the campaign. It's just a way to give the bidder, if you're a platform like us, for example, it gives the bidder a little bit more flexibility to deliver that impression in order to be on par with the campaign delivery pace, if you like. So it's a sort of a lever to adjust the delivery. And so that's so it's important parameter, but it's something where you need to learn and analyze big time.
Good to look at the data, right? Because
Yes.
just because someone viewed it late at night doesn't mean they're not as likely to buy the end product. So I think you have to, the data is what tells us. What should advertisers look for in a FAST partner? Ben, I'm going to toss that one to you.
I think number one is transparency, right? So from campaign planning to the in-flight optimizations that Luke was talking about, to that post-campaign measurement, right? Measurement is happening from beginning to end. And the explosions and advancement that we've seen in measurement mean marketers have the ability to receive large amounts of data that is actionable and to use those insights to make better decisions as they continue their marketing campaign. So I think it's important to know it's not just about receiving large amounts of data, but it's receiving the right data, right? So there should be transparency in how that data is collected, what methodological practices are being implemented. And as I mentioned before, that transparency should exist from targeting to in-flight to post-campaign measurement happening all throughout.
Okay, I think that's fantastic. I'd love to hear other thoughts on this. Ria, I see you nodding. You must have a thought.
Yeah, I mean, Ben really hit the nail on the head. I think number one, transparency is important because you need to understand if those goals are being achieved, how to pivot throughout the campaign to continue seeing that success, and utilizing the data that we have. I mean, that's really the beauty of FAST, is we have so much access to different data points, and utilizing those throughout the campaign, not just after for post-campaign attribution, but we have it in real time oftentimes, and being able to pivot quickly and work together and have that high level of communication with advertisers. I always find the level of success is far higher when you approach it that way. I also think just setting realistic expectations, right? Depending on the advertiser you're working with, they may have a very specific experience working on web or traditional cable, and understanding the nuances of FAST and streaming, and not only the additional abilities we have as marketers and delivery outlets, having them understand how that could affect the campaign and just provide some ideas and clearly discuss that throughout, I think is very important. Lastly, I would say that kind of going back to the question before on balancing an overall budget between different, delivery methods. When you have a clear line of sight to what the end goal is, that really helps to distinguish that. There's really no perfect equation on how you chop up a budget. It really depends on, what the end goal is for the client, also what the call to actions are on the campaign itself, right? If it's, a very general branding campaign, if there's QR codes, if there's any kind of call to action, I think that kind of also dictates where the campaign should be delivered.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I want to remind our viewers that they have the ability to click that little Q&A box and ask a question that we will deliver to this audience. We have a bit of time left for that. In the meantime, I do have a couple of questions that have come in. How do we know that ads will appear in safe content? And I think I'm going to ask Alan this question. How do we know they're going to be safe?
Well, we don't always know. I mean, we trust that it depends how they're placed. If it's placed directly, then there's a much better chance. If it's placed, through sort of certain types of programmatic, direct programmatic, there's also a good chance. With open programmatic, that, I'll be blunt, that has been an issue in the past. There's been some stuff. GumGum just did something around how on a lot of kids programming, adult ads are sort of slipping in, liquor ads and things like that. But the industry is aware. The good news is the industry is aware of this and they're working to do that. And there's companies like Iris TV that are putting metadata tags on the content so you know what's in there. So it's not even a safety thing as much as like you don't want your funny ad running during the funeral scene, even if it's a comedy. So like you have that ability on linear because everybody knows exactly where it's running because everything's sort of placed by hand. And streaming is catching up to that, especially the fast now, because people realize, okay, it's bought digitally, but it's not like digital where we just sort of throw it in wherever. It's TV and context really matters.
That's so very true. Context really matters. There is a question, another one in the chat that might be relevant to this. Is there a central resource online to view daily program offerings for this wide variety of streaming options? Or do I have to screen each streaming option individually to find the content I'm interested in? Oh, that's a big one, huh? So Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because we all feel that pain again as an end user, right? It's so no, I think it's right now there's no meta search which is helping you as a user almost like search across all these AVOD, SVOD, and whatnot platforms. I mean, there are probably some startups working on that, but right now the best attempt at that is probably what the OEMs, so the TV manufacturers, are doing by almost like being the entry point and the front door of this video premium content. But I think there's a great opportunity there because it's again from a user standpoint, you want to be able to search for something centrally and get access to all these streaming platforms.
Yeah, and there's one sec. The reason for that, which is actually very interesting, is that a lot of the SVOD services, the bigger subscription services, do not want people to be able to go from some search thing directly into their app for the most part. They want you to go in through the homepage of their app so they can show you other things and collect all your data. So that's why it's been difficult to sort of develop this sort of thing.
Okay. Yes, and it's so interesting. I keep going back to the thought, do we need to know every bit of content out there, or do you just need to know and have transparent reporting? Do you actually just need to have on the back end, know whether or not we're achieving the KPI, right? Just a thought. We have gotten the question, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but maybe we need to dive a little deeper. Are there benefits to day parting fast campaigns, or should it just be running around the clock? And I think a couple of you touched on this, so I'm going to go a little different direction. Ben, do you want to speak to that one a little bit?
I think it's, again, going back to taking an audience-based approach. So regardless of what time your audiences are watching, right, there's going to be great content all throughout the day. And especially in a fast environment, right? You have the ability to select the content that you're watching. So it's not necessarily, right, I need to catch the program that's airing at 9 p.m. on Tuesday night, right? It's, you can watch that on Thursday at 3 a.m. if you want to now. So it's about finding those audiences and reaching them where they're going. So followed audience, they're going to find the content, and there's all this great content out there. So again, I'd be less worried about day parting, though it has have value, right? But I think following the audience is the way to go.
Perfect. So how do you optimize a fast campaign? Ria, I know you were talking a little bit about optimizing earlier, and maybe you can kick us off. I'm sure everyone has thoughts, but how would you optimize?
Sure. Again, I think it really goes back to just having that real-time data available, having a close relationship with your advertiser and clearly understanding what their goals and KPIs are. I think really just utilizing that real-time data, that really is, in my opinion, the most valuable thing about FAST is that speed to getting that information, and those analytics are just, they're there for us to use. And really it's about, again, the clear understanding of what those, measurable goals are. And I think with FAST versus traditional cable or even web, there's also a lot of opportunity to pivot because FAST kind of encompasses a very broad selection of channels. And depending on who you're working with, I know one of the benefits in working with a partner like Whirl is we have access to thousands of channels, right? And we can quickly pivot towards others based off of how performance is going. So from a somewhat biased point of view there, that would be my feedback around that.
Excellent. Work with a good partner. I think we would all agree with that. Alan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that's really the sort of the way to do it, is to sort of, figure out which partners you're working with, and, and sort of have a plan in mind when you go into it, like understand what you want to accomplish from it, and, and see, and sort of work that way rather than going the other way around. So I think that's key.
Okay. True. I think that's very true. So we've had another one come in. Are there things to look out for or to avoid when placing ads on FAST channels? And I'm going to toss that to Luke to start. Things I would need to be aware of, be like, you just pay attention to this, choose a good partner because that kind of thing.
When choosing sorry, I think am I on mute or no?
No, you're good. Okay. Yeah.
So the question is in the context of choosing which platform you want to advertise on, or FAST as in general?
I think you could take it either way. If are there pitfalls that someone who's delving into FAST for the first time, I'm buying into this space, what do I need to be aware of or concerned about?
I think it's very important to spend time in this environment, start setting up FAST channels on your TV screens, start spending time on these platforms to rapidly realize that in fact it's identical to the way we've been consuming TV for many years. It's exactly the same experience. It's as premium because most of the time, if not all the time, the content is coming from the same media companies. It's just a different way of distributing the content. It's another way of not even consuming, but almost like pushing, broadcasting the content. So the experience, the quality, everything is pretty identical, frankly. It's really, I would say that the main difference is on the way you deliver the ads, because it's really way more surgical, it's way more targeted, it's way more measurable. So I would say there are way more benefits than risks or question marks when I personally think about FAST as a channel.
Okay, I like that a lot. And I'm curious about our other panelists. Do you have thoughts around, are there things people should look out for? And Alan, do you have a thought?
Yeah, it's actually something Ben had brought up before, just transparency or the lack thereof. All too often, especially in the early days, people were getting this like, where did it run? People who are used to knowing which show, which ad pod, and which position in the ad pod their ad ran, be like, yeah, it ran when? Last week. Where? On Roku, somewhere. And they wouldn't get anything beyond that. So Now you really need to just push, like, I need to know, at least the categories of where my ads are running, how many, give me metrics. And, it's evolving, but a lot of that was, again, because the initial people buying were doing it programmatically. They were digital buyers, and that's how they were used to doing things. And they've sort of come around to realizing, no, when people spending on TV. So just be aware that it's not like exactly like buying linear, but it's coming, and you just need to be a little bit more aggressive about saying, no, I need to know these things.
I like it. We need to be there. We need to be asking the question, does my client
Yeah.
need to be there? Does my agency need to be there? Whatever the case may be. Ben, since Alan referenced you, do you have anything to add to that thought about any pitfalls of things to be concerned about if you're wanting to go out and start delving into getting fast in the mix of your media strategy?
I would say it's just a question as a marketer about what is premium content and where can I get it? So, some people might think that free content, right, fast, right, is going to mean low quality placements. And the short answer to that is no, right? Because it's not going to be low quality, because fast is TV, and TV provides attentive audiences, right? So if your audience, your customers are there, they're more likely to respond to high quality premium content on that large screen, which increases ad engagement and heightens brand memorability. So I think it's about asking yourself to find that premium ad environment with premium produced content, which creates that greater awareness and attention.
I love it. I think that's very true. We did get one more question that has come in. I'm loving how engaged you all have been. Thank you, audience, for asking questions. At the risk of being biased, are there specific free streaming options that you feel deliver the most value to streaming advertisers? And I'm sorry, pausing there. Let's say Luke.
It's I wouldn't necessarily think of it in this way. It's depending on which advertiser we're talking about, depending on the objective, depending on a lot of variables and parameters, your campaign can deliver great results on one platform or another one at a different time, on a different channel. I mean, it's very complex. But I think it's what is important to remember is that many of these platforms have huge scale. Again, it's I have in mind 100 million households tuning in fast channels per month. It's a staggering number. Most of these platforms aggregate tons of content coming from very trusted sources. So they're all doing a pretty phenomenal job at running this fast product. So I wouldn't necessarily say put all your eggs in one single basket. It's probably more about diversification in this scenario. It's probably the advice I would share. So that's what I'm thinking about it.
I think that's great. So my mind is always one to want to recap our thoughts. So I'm hearing, listen to the KPI, target the audience, not the network necessarily. Partner with someone transparent. Am I capturing good things here? And then on our last comment there on looking for something that's going to be the best option for your client, it's really client specific. And Ria, do you have anything to add to that thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think you called everything out wonderfully. To add to, what Luke said, I think, again, there's not a one size fits all solution for every partner. And really the only thing I would add to that is, each service does have some unique value as it relates to ad units. Some services are really coming out with some really cool types of executions. I know someone had mentioned Iris TV earlier. All of those are individual to the platform, right? And the third-party vendors that each service works with, just to add value to their advertisers and also to their viewers, right? Clever ways of showcasing different types of ads, whether it be a pause ad slate or some kind of overlay. I think we're continuing to evolve. So again, yes, specific to the objectives of the advertisers, but we're all going in the right direction, I think, and sitting from where I am, seeing how the strategies differ between services is very interesting to see as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Ria. And I'd like to, as we wrap it up, give you all one opportunity to just give a closing thought and then we will move on to the close of our program. So Luke, if you would, I'm just going around the screen here.
Alex, more than happy to start. So it's I've been in digital media for 25 years, specifically in video for 16 years, covering streaming and ad tech for a while. And it's we're really going through a revolution of the media landscape. It's fascinating. And so what is important to remember is that we're still in the almost like in the middle of something, right? There's a lot spinning around us, but it's we're part of something that is really changing. And what we've been discussing here today is a part of this revolution. It's the way we consume content, the way we broadcast content, the way we monetize around content is via programmatic, via streaming and all that. It's a pretty exciting time to be in this TV meets with digital advertising transition. That's what it's super exciting to be part of that.
I totally agree, Luke, 100%. Ben, closing thoughts?
Sure. So I think a big takeaway for me here is that FAST is a part of the larger TV cross-screen, cross-platform ecosystem. And TV is premium content. It's professionally produced long-form content, right? Longer than 20 minutes, has high emotional engagement, and is generally in a brand safe environment, regardless of platform or device. So TV is, right? Let's think about we're in March Madness right now. It's watching that basketball game on CBS or TNT, or streaming it on Paramount Plus, watching it on the big screen in your living room, or streaming the new TNT drama watched on your phone while you're on the train, or binging your favorite series on demand via FAST channel. It's all TV, it's all premium content, right? It generates the same amount of attention, right? A 30-second TV ad generates the same amount of attention as 1.5 YouTube ads, 4.5 Facebook in-feed ads, or 40 desktop display ads. So I think always take into account attention, quality, duration, content, and context as you're creating your marketing plans.
Fantastic. It's all TV. I'm going to steal that one. Alan, take us home.
Okay, we still have Ria to go. But yeah, so we have, so to add to what Ben said, there's also that emotional impact, which is everything he was sort of leading up to. But in terms of FAST, there's two very broad categories that you can use for different purposes. There are the FAST that are associated with the major media companies like Pluto and Zumo, and the quickly advantages are they're on every device out there. They have unique content from the parent company, and you can often buy with their SVODs. In other words, like if you buy Pluto, you can also do the buy with Paramount Plus. Then you've got the FAST services that are associated with the OEMs. And they have their two big advantages are that they are the interface for that device, for that television set. When you turn on the TV, they're front and center so that, so they get more viewing. And then they also, the biggest advantage, they have all that ACR data from the OEM that they can then use, and they can see what people are watching across both linear and streaming to help you better target them. I mean, I think FAST are just growing. It's been incredible to watch it boom. And I think we're really going to see a big boom next year in 2024 with political advertising as people figure out, oh, I can geo-target right down to my state Senate district and spend my money there and still get TV advertising. So I think that's going to be a huge season for them.
Very huge. Good point. And Ria, I did not mean to skip you. Valuable comments.
No worries at all. I think my fellow panelists, did a wonderful job at, encapsulating all of the key points. I think I'll leave it short and sweet. I think at the end of the day, we are not reinventing the wheel. This is all TV. Really what our job is to add value, right, to our consumers and our advertisers, and figuring out ways where we can evolve the technology behind FAST channels, the way that viewers are consuming this content, and figuring out ways, again, add something unique, add something valuable, and continue that momentum forward, for precision, for reporting, and basically the way that we are kind of measuring success across the board.
So very true. Well, thank you all. Mickey Smith, I believe, is joining us, our host, to take us home.
That was such a great discussion, you all. I learned a lot, not the least of which is that linear and fast complement each other. If you are only focused on one or the other, you are likely not maximizing your marketing campaign. Also, fast really highlights the importance of knowing your audience and understanding the type of reporting that you can receive. Again, thank you to our incredible panelists, Luke, Ria, Ben, and Alan. Such great information today. And thanks to our moderator, Vanessa, and our enablement, creative, and digital team for managing the logistics and technology for today's webinar. And thank you for taking the time to join us this morning.